Good. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, it's all the way up. Let me see here. Let's see. Let me see if this one. How does this one sound? This is from my camera. Is that better? Yeah, I did notice your volume is low, but my speakers are also not the best. So. Yeah, I'll try to speak a little louder too. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty, hey everybody. How is everyone doing this awesome Sunday? So as you can see here, I have a special guest. A lot of you recognize him. It's Ike Rodriguez, a fellow true sidereal astrologer. Also uses the visible sky, and always great to connect with him. How you doing, Ike?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? Nice to see you again.
Well, you know what? Now I can't hear you at all, actually. Can everyone hear both of us? Can you hear both me and Ike? Ike, can you say something?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm looking.
Yeah, I can't hear you. Can you guys hear Ike?
Oh, I can hear you. Yeah. People can hear?
Oh no, here we go. I hear you now. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. How are you, Ike?
Yeah. Cool, man.
So anything new in the world of sidereal? I'm gonna ask Ike here a little bit about what's new. He's always got something interesting to share about the true sky and Ophiuchus and his crazy adventures that he goes on. But before I do, real quick, I just want us to give a shout out to everyone in the chat. Hey, Gift Wrapped, great to see you. Always great for you to join us. Lindsay, great to see you. Nina, Ari Gold, Gabriella, of course. Thanks for joining us, Gabriella. Nova, Ipa Phi, great to see all these familiar faces. And if you guys have any questions for Ike, just go ahead and plug it into the chat, and then once we are done here. So someone's saying they can't hear. Nina can't hear, but everyone else seems to be hearing it, so I think we're okay. But yeah, if you have any questions for Ike, just put it in the chat, and then we'll get to it probably towards the end of our chat here. All right, Ike. So what's new in the wonderful world of Ike Rodriguez?
Oh man, yeah. Well, we spent another month in Egypt. We had a little mini tour going through the sites. So the same thing, trying to get more insight on really how important is the 13th zodiac sign. And as most of you might know, I was in a movie called Code 12, and I discovered in Dendera Temple the 13th decan was actually hidden in the temple on the ceiling, and so that caught a lot of attention, and it was featured in the movie. So that kind of drove us to go back to Egypt again and see what else is going to unfold. But what I realized is when we came back, we went to the Netherlands where Frederica is, and she organized a talk presentation that I gave, and it came really clear that the 13th zodiac sign is not just about astrology. It's actually, I called it the throne of divinity, because what I started finding was a lot of religions that have ancient stories that start in the stars, you know, the origins from the stars, gods in heaven and the stars. So you start looking to all these types of these scriptures and you start to realize that they all are pointing to the same place, an origin of divinity. And the most recognizable one that people might recognize is the Gnostics. They have a place called the Pleroma, and this is where they say Christos and Sophia come from, and we know Christos as Christ consciousness or Jesus Christ, and the Sophia is the feminine counterpart. So then, as I'm researching and looking, I see, oh, where is this Pleroma? Oh, in the Galactic Center, right? And it's known as where the divine ones come from. So the seat of divinity. So I'm just like, this is crazy. And then, actually, what sparked it, I'm sitting at a dinner party, and this young guy says to me, "What's up with sidereal astrology and this 13th sign?" I said, "Well, right now I'm kind of having a moment that I'm seeing it in all these ancient religions." And he goes, "Wow, I wonder if my religion is in the the origins, the galactic center, because we worship a star in my religion, a star that's known as the throne of divinity." And I said, "Well, what's the name of the star?" And it's called Kolob. He belonged to the church of, he was a Mormon, a church of Latter-day Saints. So I said, Kolob. So I looked up Kolob. Where's Kolob? The Galactic Center, the
Wow.
seat of divinity. So this is what made me realize, like, it's more than just a zodiac sign, and this is why it's kind of suppressed and hidden, and we're kind of abused in the world as 13 zodiac sign astrologists, because the serpent energy, this the harnessing of the serpent bearer of Fucus, is a symbol of harnessing the divine energies as a inside of a human body. So immortality in a human body. That's the idea of divinity. This is the whole Christos energy to become a human, but then not only that, to find your way back after being separated. So this is how important it is, and I'll share some photos if you want as we go along. But this is how
Yeah.
important to me. I realize the 13 zodiac sign is.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it is crazy how we see it everywhere, right? So I don't think anyone could hear you at the very beginning, and I had a hard time hearing you too because of the volume on my end. I realized that it was actually from the input here, but I think we got it all sorted. If I can just get a confirmation, Gabriella, someone let me know if we're all good here. But yeah, I think we're good. What you were saying, and let me know if this is correct. The the original sort of quest you were on there was with Egypt, right? And that's where you found that a fucus was obviously part of that you know
Yeah.
zodiac, and it maybe was removed or darkened out, right, in the temples that we talked about. Um, but yeah, so then you started to discover it more in terms of other cultures, and from the Gnostics, they have their version of it, which was what was the name again?
Well, it's called the Pleroma.
The
This is
Pleroma.
where the Christos and Sophia come from. So obviously these are the divine. These are this is the gods, the divine masculine and feminine.
Okay.
Where they come from. Your voice got lower, I think, because you put the microphone down.
Yeah, because apparently I'm extremely loud compared to you, so I've just moved the mic away, and I'm going to see if that works. But I think as long as you can hear me enough, I think
Yeah.
this is going to be the best. Yeah. Um, so yeah, so that's about the masculine and the feminine combining, and that's for like a more transformative, um, you know, force that a fucus would represent, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, in Egypt, he's known as Imhotep. So if you trace it, which is really easy to find, it's a fucus is related to Asclepius, the god of medicine, and then you trace that back down. Asclepius is actually Imhotep of Egypt. So these are all the same stories, and then you trace that further, and you realize that the Christos, which is It's an energy. The man named Jesus is the one who is able to access Christos. So this is where this all kind of falls into place, right? And if you look at the image of the Last Supper, there's 13 people there. So the
Right.
center one is the Christos, the Christ, the
Right.
divine one, the anointed one. But
Right.
people miss that part. They go, no, that's the Son. Well, no, it's not. It's the S-U-N, S-O-N, S-U-N, S-O-N, Son,
Right.
Son. And
And there
so
seems
it
to be a
goes
lot
deeper
of
and deeper. Yeah.
kind of how do you say, like, interchange between the word sun and son in
Yeah,
cultures, it seems like, right? I wonder how many times they've used the word son to refer to the actual sun and vice versa.
exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
And how does that play into like Egyptian though? Because I know like in Egypt there is the sun god, which is Ra, I believe,
Yeah.
right? And then there's a fucus, which is, but they didn't call it a fucus, right? They had another name for it, obviously. What
Yeah, there's no name. There's no
what's
name
the
for
name?
it. Yeah, there's no but it's you can see in the Dendera temple, the circular zodiac on the top floor,
Mhm.
they have the zodiac wheel. You can clearly see Ophiuchus there.
Yeah,
It's like
but there's
he's
no
right
like
there and he's sitting on a
deity,
throne.
right? There's no like deity associated with it. So, is there any link to the symbol of the god on the throne to like to a god in
Wait,
Egyptian
say that again
mythology?
because you were kind of low.
Oh yeah. So, is there any sort of connection between the person sitting on the throne in that Ophiuchus spot and a deity in Egyptian uh, uh, myth?
Oh, right, yeah.
Is
No,
there any connection, or
there's no
so
name.
it's
You
like
see
a
the yeah, you see the zodiac wheel, and then right between Scorpio Sagittarius, which we all know which is where Fucus is, and it's right above, right?
right?
You
Yeah,
see a god on a throne holding a staff, the staff of
but
Asclepius.
that god hasn't been seen anywhere else in Egyptian. We got to discover that because I have a feeling that that god has to be somewhere else in the
Yeah,
Egyptian myth or in the temples or something like that, right? But in your
yeah,
experience, there's no like there's no link yet that we can see. There's no way to identify what god that is on the 13th
yeah. The
tablet.
what I believe it's actually Imhotep himself. So the story of
Uh,
Imhotep, which no one gives any credit to. So if you look up who Imhotep was, you realize that he was the builder of the first pyramid of Egypt was he was the architect of that. And then you start to realize that he was actually the architect of all the pyramids. So he was the grand, intelligent architect of Egypt, which then and the interesting story is that his story is he wasn't royal. He was born as a common human being. And then 2,000 years after his death, he's been deified as a god by the Ptolemies. So now, just the same way, the Christ story is the same way, right? A normal
hmm.
person born like a normal human, non royal. And then 2,000 years later, we're worshiping him as a god, as a human that was able to live by the divine order and become a god. And in Egypt, he's the only human being to be deified as a god. No humans are deified as gods. They're pharaohs. But he's been deified as God. Same story of the
Hmm.
Christos, the Christ story. So they're the
Right.
same stories. And then when we go there, we're at the Saqqara complex, and his story is grand to if you really understand it. And then there's a museum there dedicated to him. It's called the Imhotep Museum. You walk around and you don't find anything about Imhotep except for a statue about 6 inches tall.
Hmm.
And I said, "What? This is the person who built all of this, and you represent him by a statue like that big." And this is just like, oh yeah, well, because it's suppressed.
Yeah.
It's
So
suppression.
this idea of a human that's been deified then seems to
Yeah,
be a recurring theme with,
Yeah.
is it a fucus specifically? So if we're linking Jesus with a fucus, we're linking Imhotep. So is it Imhotep, would you say, is the embodiment of a fucus in Egyptian myth?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. The
So,
same way Jesus is the embodiment of the Christos. It's all the same.
okay. And then, of course,
This,
throughout the Gnostics and the Mormons. And
yeah.
one thing that stands out is with the Greek myth, the
Hmm.
only person I can think that fits with that is Hercules. Because if I'm
Hmm.
not mistaken, Hercules was a man, although was Hercules, I don't know if Hercules was deified, though. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Greek myths as much as
Okay.
the Egyptian stuff. Yeah.
Well, he was supposed to go through like all these trials, and I can't
Yeah.
remember how many trials there were, but there could have been, something like 12. And so
There's
then,
always going to be that 12 trials, and then the 13th door is the way out. It's
right,
it shows
right.
everywhere. It's like
So I'm
sometimes you feel like
curious.
you're going crazy because you see it like that.
Yeah, I'm curious if anyone in the chat knows the story of Hercules. Was Hercules's story that of 12 tasks? I believe it was 12. I believe it was 12. And also, was Hercules deified? Because if Hercules did go on 12 tasks and was deified, then that would mean Hercules would be the sort of, I know
Yeah.
a fucus is already a Greek thing, but whenever you started to talk about this deification, I immediately thought of Hercules because of
Hmm.
him going through those tasks. But I just don't know if Hercules became a god. So I'm very curious.
Right.
So someone says he was considered a demigod. So maybe not the
Demigod.
actual god, but okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
anywhere
Yeah.
else where that repeats? Because now they got me thinking about the deification, and I know that's
Yeah.
very common idea.
Yeah.
Human becoming a god.
Yeah. I mean, that's the story that I think that if I from what I'm seeing, if you access that energy, the 13th energy that we speak about, not just like something to argue about the zodiac, 12 signs, 13 signs, let's fight about it. No, like you really access like what are they trying to show us? Um,
Yeah.
it's everywhere. Even the Maya have it. The Maya, you remember the entire 2012 situation?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the sun, I'm going to show an image. I'll show an image, but the sun on the winter solstice, it is set and then it rose on Christmas exactly in the galactic center, the 13th zodiac sign, which on December 21st, 2012 was supposed to be the end of the 13th Baktun calendar. They use the
Mm-hmm.
number 13 Baktun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 13 again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Marking the end of an age and the beginning of a new age.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I
yeah.
remember, and another interesting thing too that we don't talk too much about is that, and this rings true, I think, for the Mayan, being that they were so attuned to the cycles of this, in this case, the solar cycle, because it was December 21st, I believe, was like
Yeah.
when they said that. So,
Mhm.
the winter solstice is now inching closer to a fucus.
Mhm.
So, for those that don't know, like we have, the so-called ages, right? And so we have what everyone's saying we're in the age of Aquarius, but you're with me, right? Like we're in the age of
Yeah.
Pisces, right?
We're
Okay.
still in the age of Pisces.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're actually in the age of Pisces because the sun is in Pisces during the spring equinox. But of course, there's also the autumn equinox, and there's also the solar, and there's also the winter solstices. And so that means that right now, the winter solstice is at the very beginning of Sagittarius. And that means it's inching closer to a fucus. And if my math is correct, it's been a while since I've done the math, but I think we're something like 70 something years, or no, it's more than that actually, sorry. No, it's a couple hundred years. We're like a couple hundred years from the winter solstice shifting into a fucus. So that's like I don't know, to me that seems like it's gonna change a lot, because when you start to think about what the ages represent, and you now start to think like, we're saying the age is the spring equinox, but just as important is the winter solstice. I
Yeah,
mean, why do we give so much credit to the spring equinox, right? And
right.
we have these others, and the winter solstice is a big one. So we have this shift now where the winter solstice is going to become a fucus and then align with the galactic center, right? That's like, I don't even know. Like, I'm not much into the end of the world stuff, but if there is an end to the world, I would imagine it's the winter solstice aligning with the galactic center or something like this. But no,
Yeah, yeah,
that's just
yeah, yeah.
clickbait, scary stuff there. But no, seriously though, I mean, I think that's going to be very transformative. I think for the world
Hmm.
when that happens. But anyways, going back to this idea, it is always about that transformation, right? And I think that's what the galactic center is really about, is like whenever we see planets passing through that galactic center, it really is that death and rebirth, very much
Yeah,
what's it called in Christ, it's just the when he
the
came
resurrection.
back, the resurrection,
The
right? So the death
resurrection.
and resurrection.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's another theme that seems to be repeated a lot too. Like, was Imhotep resurrected? Is the resurrection theme something that gets repeated?
No, no. You don't see any of that. But what's interesting is when you start to, you know, we don't find the remains of any of these people. So there's no
Mm-hmm.
remains of Christ. There's no remains of Imhotep. You can't find Imhotep. How can you
Mm-hmm.
not find the tomb of Imhotep?
There's no
Where'd he
mummy.
go?
There's no
Yeah, and
tomb.
the other ones who paid a lot of attention were the Maya to the Galactic Center. Obviously, were the Maya. And if you follow the story of the Maya, we cannot find them. That civilization was said to just disappear.
Right.
So all of a sudden, a mass disappearance of a civilization, and then no bones, no remains. Where'd they go?
Yeah.
They descended?
So
Ascension? Is that a
Imhotep,
real thing?
yeah, I mean, it must be, right? I mean, so many people
Yeah.
obviously believe that. The Christians, Catholics, I mean, they all believe in resurrection for Jesus, at least, being it's actually possible.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So with the Imhotep, there's a temple, but what is there like an empty coffin?
Nothing.
So there's a
There's
temple, but there's a temple of Imhotep.
well, they have a shrine dedicated to the deification process
Oh, okay.
on Phila Island at the Isis temple. And it's like it sounds grand, right? You go like, whoa. And when you get there, it's empty. the the walls are empty. There's just a little scene on the front wall and the entrance that shows the deification. And then you go in and there's nothing on the walls. It's empty. And then the only thing that you see there is they put the electric, which is kind of interesting, I thought, because energy is electric, right? So the electrical box, the big electrical boxes for the light shows that they give there at night,
Hmm.
are stored in the Imhotep shrine. So I'm
That's
like,
interesting.
it's energy, right? It's like electric energy is there, but there's nothing there. There's nothing. There's a little plaque about Imhotep and
Hmm.
the deification, and then that's it. Like, and it's like, of course, you know.
Yeah, that
But then we
is.
did notice on the wall there was a serpent-looking print of black that was like a wave pattern throughout the whole wall
Hmm.
that looked like the skin of a serpent.
Hmm.
And we thought that we've never seen that before. What is that now? Right?
Because
So there's little symbols.
Imhotep's not usually associated with a serpent, right?
Well, it's the original. The symbol is the original medical symbol. So Imhotep is the staff with the snake around it,
Asclepius
right? And
in Greek
Fucus is
mythology.
also the snake,
Right,
right?
because the staff of
Moses,
Asclepius
yeah, staff of
is
Asclepius, yeah,
from Greek, but the
right,
Egyptians have the same staff or a similar
yeah,
one.
same staff with the
Oh,
serpent.
okay. Oh,
Yeah,
interesting. Okay,
that's
and
what
that's
they
and
that's what's
that's
shown.
and that's always associated with Imhotep, or that's something Imhotep
No,
carries, or
the staff usually means power. I'm going to show you an interesting image. I
okay,
can share. Let me.
yeah, yeah, should be
Yeah,
able
because I
to.
think the images will help like show a lot. Um, just let me know when you can see my screen.
Okay, I see it. Well, I see the Zoom thing, but I'm about to see
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
This is the slide. This is the presentation that I gave, but I'm just want to show this interesting symbol. Hang on a second. Um, it's right here. Here it is. Oh, I just passed it. This is an example of symbolism throughout different cultures. So here on the left, this is in Tiwanaku. This is the sun god, the Inca sun god, and you can see he's a man holding two staffs.
Yeah,
And
that's
his
very.
head looks like
That's
a
also, I
radio,
think, symbolic for the passage through the dimensions or
like a
the
portal.
afterlife or a portal, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then all the way to the right, if you look here, that's the Ankh symbol, and these are two like staffs, was. They call the was scepter, which means energy and power, life force power. So I know a lot about the Egyptian symbolism. And everyone probably knows this. The Ankh symbol means eternal life, so immortal, holding two power rods, and so immortal soul, immortal person, immortality, and holding the power. And then and here's the Inca god holding that. The same thing. So and then they overlay on each other and they're almost exact, like right on top of each other. See
Oh,
in the
that's the
middle?
overlay in the middle.
Yes,
Yeah.
the overlay. So
Wow.
that symbolism, if you know what you're looking for, is everywhere. The 12, for example, here's me in Egypt. No one would guess what that is, right? But you see the pharaoh has a staff
Yeah.
here, Ramses the first. He's in the underworld. He's like you said, that portal. He's in the other world, right? And the serpent in the underworld, it's called the Amduat. The serpent is known as the serpent of chaos. And again, just like the Hercules story, there's 12 gates you have to go through. They call the 12 gates, 12 hours of the night.
There's
And
even
in
12
each gate, you
loops.
met with a serpent.
There's even 12 loops to the serpent coiled
Well,
up
that's
there.
what I was going to point out to
Oh,
you.
sorry. Yeah.
To the serpent, right? So the 12 loops of the serpent of chaos and the pharaoh, this symbol shows that the pharaoh was able to stop it dead in its track.
Hmm.
So he stops. So he's in the underworld, 12 hours of the night, the 12 coiling serpents, and he stops it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another part of the work that I've been doing is the angle of 23.5 degrees, which is the obliquity of the earth. And that angle is shown in a lot of photos of humans that have access to divine knowledge or sacred cosmic knowledge. For example, this rod right here, when I measured it, was at an angle of 23.5. The rod of the Archangel Michael or Michael, he slays that dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Archangel Michael, he slays a dragon. You measure that rod that he slays that dragon with, it's 23.5.
Oh, wow.
The dragon that's going to devour him, the serpent of chaos that's going to devour you. You slay it with 23.5, the cosmic knowledge.
Hmm.
So
So
this
what's
is all the things that I'm
so
putting
sorry
together.
that angle? Is there a name for it? You said it's called the.
Well, they call they call it it represents the obliquity of the earth. The way I discovered it is there's a book called The Giza Prophecy by Gary Osborne, and what part of the book he shows a lot of Freemason or ancient images are showing us an angle of 23.5 as a secret, showing that
Hmm.
like it's almost like a Freemason hand gesture. Like I know the
Hmm.
secret of the laws of the universe.
Hmm.
So he points that out that this angle means something.
Mm-hmm.
It's a secret code.
And
So
when
I
you
looked
say,
into it,
yeah, sorry, go
and
ahead. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, I looked into it, and so they came up with, oh, it's just because they knew that the Earth was round and it represented the obliquity of the Earth. But but we know that 23.5-degree tilt of the Earth is what gives us our exact ecliptic. So
Oh,
we're
is the ecliptic 23.5 from what?
off the axis.
From the
So that
axis.
so that will point us to, like, it's even in the Bible. It's called the Maseroth. The Maseroth. Know the Maseroth to establish your dominion on earth. You look up what does Maseroth mean? Oh, that means the belt, the Zodiac belt. So
Wow.
this is what I'm saying. Like, something about knowing the true Zodiac, literally what your company name is, mastering the Zodiac, will allow you to ascend.
Mm-hmm.
So then it makes perfect sense that the entire world, most of it, is practicing an astrology that's not alignment with the true constellations of the Zodiac,
Yeah.
because they don't want us to ascend, I guess, right? Because
Right.
then again, isn't that the story of Ophiuchus, right?
Yeah,
He
exactly.
was stopping the cycles, or he was stopping humans from going to the underworld because he was giving them the elixir of immortal life.
Mm.
And then that was revered at one level, like that's beautiful. But on Earth, we need to maintain the balance. We need souls coming to the underworld as well, going to the overworld. These are just the laws of Earth. So
Mm.
that's his story, right? So they said, we're going to have to kill you, but we're going to honor you. We're going to put you in the sky. And then that's
To
the Fucus
to Im,
constellation.
to Ophiuchus, to
It's,
Imhotep, to Christ,
yeah.
to this.
Hmm.
And can you explain a little bit more about that? This sort of natural law idea that we need this kind of. Did you say souls need to go to the underworld?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest, the biggest, yeah, there's actually a movie on Disney. It's called Soul, Soul.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it though.
Dude,
Yeah.
you gotta watch it, man.
Oh, really?
These souls go into the underworld. They go in and they're on a conveyor belt, and they're going to the light, right? That's because we all know, just go to the light. But this one soul is on the conveyor belt, and he sees the people go into the light, and they're just getting zapped into nothingness. So
Hmm.
the guy goes, I'm not going there. And he runs away. He goes away from the light, which you hear that, go away from the light.
Yeah.
So then he moves away from the light. And now there's a massive manhunt or a soul hunt for this one missing soul that didn't go through that portal,
Hmm.
right? So he threw the balance off. So they want to find him to put him through that portal. And he doesn't. He comes back and he's reborn again, but then somehow it's a mistake. He's reborn into the body of a dog or a cat or some weird thing like that.
Hmm.
But it is about that story, about something about recycling. There's a recycling process. And,
But don't
there's
they?
words that circulate that make you question. I don't know if you ever heard of the law of one. They talk about this stuff. It's a channeling, um, it's a big sessions that got channeled. And they talk about something called the harvest, that it's actually natural for a soul to evolve enough to be harvested off the planet. And the idea is to have a mass amount of souls being harvested, because Earth is just one level. There's other levels that the soul has to travel. So now it makes sense that there's something that's keeping souls here from evolving, which is why we have society that's kind of not as evolved as we would imagine it should be by now.
Yeah.
So there's
So
something
that's
there that
the.
looking at.
So that's also the Hindu idea of reincarnation.
Yes,
So
samsara. Yeah,
okay. So
yeah.
then, how does that fit then exactly? So let's say about going into the light. What is going into the light doing? Is that the reincarnation, or is the escaping the light the reincarnation?
Yeah, I mean, so I believe that the 12 signs of the zodiac are the samsara wheel. This is the wheel of samsara, 12, because you have the 12 zodiac signs. You have, and is again, false matrix. This is what we call now the false. We're living in a false vibration, a false matrix, a false dome. 12 zodiac signs. That's not true. 12 hours. Is that true? 12 months. Is that true?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. Right. No, I
Because we
get
should live
that. Yeah,
14 months,
yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah. Hmm.
So you start looking at that, that all keeps you closed under a false dome.
Yeah.
So then you start looking into the 13th, you start realizing there's something out of this. So my belief is that the 13th zodiac sign, when you can vibrate with it and everything that comes along with it, there's a soul evolution that happens that you actually can leave the false matrix. And that ties perfectly into the story of Ophiuchus, that, and also Jesus Christ, that yes, through me, through the information that I have and I'm sharing, you can go to God.
Right.
Because if you ask anybody from a baby to a human being to an adult, where does God live? Where is this God? They go like this in the sky. Well, what's in the sky? The stars, right?
Right. Right.
Right. So this is
Yeah.
like, this is the
So
thing.
so
Trying to
then
go there.
Ophiuchus, yeah. So Ophiuchus is then this in a way this kind of escape from the samsara wheel or the
Yeah.
false matrix or this dome. It's it's a transformation, um, and in this analogy of the light though, which because I'm so curious about that. Going into the light does what, and going away from the light does what? What's your belief about that
Yeah.
one?
So the light. So, again, this is speculation because I haven't died yet.
Yeah.
So going to the light where it's warm, where they show family, it's said to be an illusion
Yeah.
to zap you back into this false matrix so that
Okay, so going back into the light would repeat the wheel, the cycle.
and my understanding is you go away from the light, you go into darkness, which is
Hmm.
where in Egypt you get the Amduat. The Amduat is the dark night, the 12 hours of night. And
Hmm.
you have to journey through night. That's why you see a lot of the gods on these boats, solar boats, because they have you see right above, there's a boat.
Yeah.
The god's in the boat. He's traveling through the night, through the sea of stars. The Amduat is represented by stars on the ceiling. So
Hmm.
the pharaoh dies and he goes into the Amduat, pure darkness, only guided by the stars. And then he gets through the 12 gates. So my belief, what I've found, I'll show you an image too.
Hmm.
There's a word, I think it's here. It's called in Egypt, it's called the Amenta. And the Amenta stands for, it has two meanings. It means earth and it means the underworld. So the Amenta is also another word for where you travel when you pass on. That's the land of the dead. It's called the
Hmm.
Amenta. And what are the odds that that's also the name of Earth? So
Hmm.
what if we are dead? We are dead now,
Hmm.
journeying through these 12 hours of night, these 12 zodiac signs, trapped in this chaos.
Huh.
And then when we get out, is that life? Are we dead? Are we in Amenta? Are we in the Amenta, the underworld?
Hmm.
Right? So these are all the things that I'm kind of like going through and going like, well, what's really happening? I'm trying to find that word. I have it somewhere here. Oh yeah, right here. So the Amenta. It means the land of the dead, but it's also the land of the living. It's Earth, the
Hmm.
earthly world.
Hmm.
So that makes me question, right? Because in Earth, everything is 12. So
Yeah. Very interesting.
yeah,
Well, we could talk about this for hours. So
yeah.
let me go and take some questions, and then,
Okay.
man, how would you like to meet up again next week? We'll do another one of these next week
Yeah,
and
yeah.
dive even
Let's
more
do
into
it.
this because I got a ton of questions too. I want to ask. It's really speaking a
Yeah.
lot of my interest here.
Yeah, let me
Um,
just show you one thing quick.
mhm.
This is the ceiling. This is what was in the movie of Code 12. This is the ceiling in Dandara that has the Zodiac on the lower level.
Right.
And out of the entire ceiling that was clean, this is the only dark spot hidden. They didn't clean. See?
To the 13th,
And
and
then
that's
when I
after
asked them,
Scorpio. Yeah.
yeah, you see Sagittarius right here, and Capricorn right here,
Yep.
and then above above this symbol is actually Scorpio. It's the zodiac.
Yeah.
And I asked about it, and he's on a solar bark. And I asked about it, and he goes, "Oh, that's the 13th decan. You see Scorpio here?
Yeah.
Scorpio,
So it's not
Sagittarius.
an order though.
Huh?
It's not an order.
Yeah. Well,
It,
it's between. See Scorpio and my mouse? I don't know if you can see my mouse.
yeah.
Scorpio.
Hmm.
And then there's a moon. This is a moon right here. This is a full moon. And then here's Sagittarius.
Yeah.
So Ophiuchus does sit between Scorpio and Sag.
But
Right?
that's Taurus to the left.
No, this is Capricorn.
Oh, that's Capricorn. Oh, it is an
Yeah,
order then. Okay, so
yeah,
it's
it's
actually,
Sagittarius.
and it's actually
Yeah,
going in the rotation of the Earth. So from
yeah,
right to left. Okay,
yeah. And
cool.
then obviously this is the circular. Let me show you real quick before. This is the circular zodiac, and it's hard to see, but Ophiuchus is sitting right here. I don't know if you can see my mouse.
Hmm.
See, he's sitting here on the throne. It's upside down,
Oh, I
and you
see.
can
Yeah.
see Scorpio here,
Yeah.
and Sagittarius here,
Yeah.
and Capricorn here.
So they have Ophiuchus
Hmm.
as a man god or a human
Yeah,
god, human deity on a throne.
on a throne. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Interesting.
It's pretty
Very
cool. Yeah,
cool. Very cool. All right, so let's get
yeah,
to some questions because I don't want to neglect the chat
yeah,
here. But man, yeah, let's if you're cool, let's have another one next week, and
yeah.
that way everyone can expect it and maybe have some questions to ask there too.
Yeah,
But
I'm game.
let me just go through here real quick. Thanks Aquarius Sky Cloud for that. So Aquarius Sky Cloud says the 12th. So yeah, so Hercules did have 12 tasks. It's to overcome what we believe is the 12 signs, the 12 energies of man, just like you were saying in terms of this life, going
Hmm.
mastering the zodiac, going through these
Hmm.
trials and learning. Um, yeah, that's really
Wow,
cool.
it's interesting. I didn't know that. 12. So again, 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
making Hercules the 13th, which
Oh,
is
wow.
right because he's the one going through the trials. I mean, it would make
Yeah.
sense. Okjay, the gift is that if you unite male and female in the meridian system, your inner work. Okay, let me go straight to the questions so I can just get some of these pressing questions. Odd question, why are the. Okay, I'm going to stick to just the Egyptian questions. But odd question, why are if you want to answer this quickly, why are the Kremlin doors so gigantic? The lock is at the top, an indication of giant people. Would giants have built the
Kremlin.
pyramids? Mm-hmm.
That's something that's been coming up a lot. People have questions of how were the pyramids built. And when we were there, I was there with my lady Frederica, and we had another few people in the group. And she does past life regression. She's psychic. She can see things. She saw right away. Giants built this. They just have, and it's a longer story because it's the Serapeum in the Saqqara where Imhotep is they have this huge granite sarcophagus. And she said she saw the vision. She says, "Oh, this is where this is like a Stargate. They transport these huge workers. They come and they work and they build all these temples, and then they go back to the other world." That makes perfect sense. Then copper chisels and whatever else they talk about. It's like, yeah, they pick up the block and boom, they put it there. That's it. Like Legos.
Yeah,
So I hope, you know, that answers his question or her question.
it would surprise me. Yeah, and especially too if you think about like they say that there was more oxygen on the planet in the past, and like that's why the dinosaurs were so big and stuff, and a lot of the animals have
Yeah.
gotten smaller evolutionarily. They say. So I wonder, like, if humans have lived longer than they say we have, there's more of a history. Maybe we were,
Right.
maybe there were some physically bigger, entities, or of course, then there's the whole, outside the world
Yeah.
theories too. But
Yeah.
last question here that I think or two more questions I think are relevant. So Sunday says the 13th sign of the zodiac is to escape? Question mark. Ancient texts speak of that. Maybe when we were under a different North Star? Question mark. I can speak to that real quick. So, like, we are obviously the precession of the Earth means that we are changing not only the sun relative to the constellations, but it's very possible that actually this wouldn't deal with precession, what I'm about to say. But my point here is that the stars are moving not just relative to the sun, but we are literally, like, the whole solar system itself is literally moving as well. And that's us, basically orbiting around the galactic center, which is where Ophiuchus is, right? So just so it's clear, the galactic center is where Ophiuchus is, and the whole solar system is revolving around that. But apparently, we're sort of, revolving around it in a sine wave pattern, and so that means we're actually kind of moving up and down relative to the stars. And so, in this case, it's very possible that Ophiuchus actually becomes more prevalent during certain epochs, and Orion is more prevalent during certain epochs, because that's where the tilt is with the right. Because if we're looking at the galactic center, which is Ophiuchus, and if we are doing a sine wave, then that would mean Ophiuchus would be rising and falling relative to the ecliptic, and so would Orion, being completely opposite that, be rising and falling relative to the ecliptic. And we're talking about tens of thousands of years, probably hundreds of thousands of years, even longer. But that makes an interesting point that, we probably go through these certain time periods where, like, Ophiuchus is more visible, more dominant, more, emphasized, and then Orion, the opposite, is more so at certain times too. And I've always wondered, like, how much do we actually wobble, like, up and down? Well, how much does the sun wobble relative to Earth up and down? Not just, again, like with the precession, but also what we see as vertically relative to the galactic center, relative to Orion and Ophiuchus. So that's always something that's been interesting. Any thoughts around that kind of a thing?
To me.
Oh, yeah, for you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, the what was coming to mind, and is the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. It's a sine wave.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mini. So everything is fractal. So that's the seasonal sine wave. That's 20. We move 23.5 between the equator. 23.5 at
Right.
this rate. 23.5 that
From
way.
the axes of the
I
Earth.
wonder what the precessional one is as well.
Yeah, and it's funny, no one really knows. So these scientists, they know we're moving through this so-called sine wave pattern around the galactic center, but if you start researching it, it's very vague, and it's hard to get some, like, real solid information on it. So my guess is they either don't know, or they have some estimated guesses. But I would be very curious if anyone or yourself, I can ever find that out. Like, how much is that sine wave actually
Right.
peaking and troughing at, and how much does that actually change our sky, and to what extent? Yeah. All right. So last question, and we'll wrap things up here. So incognito. When planets align, like early 2025. Oh, well, yeah. Does this manifest itself as change here on Earth? Well, yeah, absolutely, right. So, like, anytime we have conjunctions or alignments and stuff, that's always going to represent, changes on Earth astrologically. But just to put it out there, like, they've been saying how all the planets are aligned this year, and I just have to say that the scientific community has a lot of clickbait out there, and they're always saying that the planets are aligned, and it's always some very special thing, or this full moon or that full moon. Basically, what's happening is that most of the planets are visible in the night sky right now, but they're always aligned because that's the ecliptic. So they're saying it's aligned because they're all kind of dotted in a line, but that's because they're always dotted in a line. We just have most of the planets visible in the night sky right now. That's the so-called alignment that they're saying in February. But anything you want to answer about that? Like, so the question is, when planets align, like they are now, like they're saying, we have, what is it, 7 planets visible in the night sky aligned because they're on the ecliptic. But does that manifest itself as change here on Earth? Is there anything you would add, like, astrologically to that?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. It is definitely clickbait and hype of like what these people are saying because I mean, it's a beautiful scene because the best thing if you're a stargazer, you go out, if you have a telescope, you can see. I think every planet is up that's visible with the naked eye except for Mercury. And if you have a telescope, you can see Jupiter, the rings, the storm clouds with Jupiter. the rings of Saturn. You can see, well, Venus and Mars. That you could probably see the ice caps of Mars with a telescope.
Oh, really?
So yeah, and, so it's cool. I mean,
Yeah,
hey,
that's
it's
cool. Yeah.
right.
And it is cool that we have like those visible planets. Like Venus has been so prominent lately. I'm sure you've seen her. It's
So bright,
amazing
right?
lately. Yeah. And then Mars is visible now at the same time too with Jupiter. So we have like very visible planets right now. Visible. Venus, Jupiter, and Mars are very visible. And it's really cool to see
Saturn
those.
too is up there somewhere. It's
And
setting with
Saturn.
Venus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a little more difficult to see, right? Just Venus and Jupiter being the most visible,
Yeah.
and
Well, if
then
you have a
Mars is
telescope,
next.
even
Oh,
a
but with a
small telescope,
telescope, yeah, yeah, you can see
even
Saturn.
binoculars, you might be able to make out Saturn, and you can see the rings.
You can see rings with binoculars?
Yeah,
Really?
little bit. You
Oh, I
gotta have
didn't
a
know
good
that.
sky.
Oh, that's
Like if you get
cool.
a small telescope, even like $100 telescope,
Yeah.
and figure out how to point it to Saturn, you'll be surprised. You'll
Oh,
see it.
wow. Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool. All right.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Thank you so much, Ike. So we'll see
yeah.
you next week, and so everyone's prepared next time. We went over. We'll probably go a little more over next week as well. And let me know if you have any questions for Ike. Ike is a true siderealist, true sidereal astrologer. Been doing this for many years now. At this point, we've been doing a lot of these live stream or YouTube videos. And just so everyone knows where you can find him, so he's at you've got. Why don't you go ahead and share? Where would you like people to go?
Yeah. Well, the best place right now, go to the Facebook group, Sidereal Revolution. That's where we kind of all just hang out there. And my website is siderealastrologist.com. So,
siderealastrologist.com, siderealastrologist.com. And then the Facebook group is Sidereal Revolution, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can find that on the MTZ too, because we post there, we're active there. But if you just go to Facebook, go to the search and type in Sidereal. I think it's the first thing that comes up. But Sidereal Revolution. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
group is
Gabriella, for
growing
the
pretty
link.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gabrielle just posted a link there in the chat. Thank you.
Oh, sweet.
All right, everyone. So have a great one. Thank you, Ike. I'll see you next week.
All right.
All
Much
right.
love. See you
Much
soon.
love. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.